About 3 months at home, they're away form sort of kept them in the mix.
Number 10.
So Sevilla coming up with just about their strongest lineup because Javi Navarro and also Julian Escudé are missing through injury. So Sebastian Schillaci, signed from Lyon in the off-season, fits in at centre-half alongside Abdoulaye Konko, formerly of Juventus. Fernando Navarro will start at right-back, and you will notice that Sevilla have to use the number 16, formerly of Puerto, now of his good friend David Prieto. Sevilla last season, of course, were last 16 entrants in the Champions League, so they know all about the highest level of European competition, and of course they have those back UEFA Cup successes as well in 2006 and 2007. Maybe Paolo Maldini, who makes a surprise appearance for Milan, can give them chapter and verse. Milan with plenty of experience, but also some youth in there as well. Kaká is back from a knee operation. There's no Ronaldinho. He's gone to the Olympic Games with Brazil, as has Pato. Marco Borriello has a knee injury. So up front with Kaká will be Alberto Paloschi, fresh from under-19 duty with Italy as they made the final of the European Championships. Plenty of experience in the middle. Pirlo, Seedorf, Gattuso in particular will shine, and Paolo Maldini is the talisman at the heart of the defence for Carlo Ancelotti, who is in his 50th year. Many rumours last year that he was about to be replaced by Jose Mourinho or something like that. He's gone, of course, to the blue and black half of Milan, but still the pressure on Ancelotti and co to perform in 2008-9.
Yeah, very much so when you're in charge of a club like AC Milan. Well, he seems to have a very good working relationship with Silvio Berlusconi, and he has said on many occasions that the only club he will leave Milan for will be his hometown club, which is AS Roma. So that means he probably will be at Chelsea next season, doesn't it?
It does seem to work like that, doesn't it? Stanislav Sukhina from the Russian Premier League is the man who will take charge of this one, with Milan, as you have come to expect, in red and black stripes and white shorts, attacking the goal away to our left in this first half. What is described by many as Russia's major football venue, despite the fact that the Luzhniki was that 10 weeks ago staged the Champions League final in a pretty good crowd in Essen for this game.
Yes, very much so. Russian football has really grown in the last 4 or 5 years. They've got a lot more home money invested. Lots of wealthy Russian men and women, I'm sure, putting money into their local teams.
It's also going to be the venue for some of Russia's internationals in the autumn months. They take on Wales here rather than the synthetic surface of the Luzhniki. It's in good condition. Of course, the stadium given a 50-day break for the Euro 2008 Championships. There's traditionally a 20-day break in the Russian calendar in midsummer. Of course, the season going from March to November because of the harsh climes in the east of Europe. Well, clearance from Abbiati. First touch for Paloschi against Kaká. Bit of midfield pinball that Ambrosini couldn't control. Adriano against Gattuso. Adriano bravely opting to take part in this game despite the loss of his grandmother earlier in the week. Wanted to be part of the Sevillan pre-season preparations. La Liga starting at the end of the month, and Milan kicking off their campaign at the end of August against Bologna in Serie A. It was a very entertaining and open game in the Super Cup in Monaco 12 months ago, and I'm sure that many neutrals will be expecting more of the same in this one.
Yeah, no reason why we should see anything different. I'm sure that both coaches will be looking to just experiment a little bit. The AC Milan team is a tried and tested formula, particularly in that midfield area. I wouldn't be surprised if we see quite a few substitutions at half-time.
Tackle was from Ambrosini. Left Renato on his backside.
As a player, you want to be fit as quickly as possible. You also don't want to play, you know, 3-4 consecutive 90 minutes pre-season. You just want to keep yourself a little bit fresh for the opening game. That's when you really want to let yourself loose.
Well, Sevilla's preparations so far have included matches against rather lowly Spanish opposition, regional sides. So this is a real step up in class today for Milan. Well, They played 2 45-minute matches in Turin on Tuesday, both of them draws, one against Juventus and one against Inter, both with strong sides. Emotions running so high that Signor Ancelotti offered middle digit to the Juventus fans, chiding their former coach.
That's a regular pre-season triangle tournament between the three of them. Certainly I know with Juventus they seem to play them every pre-season, and with it's like Liverpool, Man United and Arsenal playing each other every season. I don't think it would go down too well, would it?
Calata had to get back in time because he was being harried by Luis Fabiano. Can't quite imagine all of the core sides in Spain, Germany, England coming together right on the eve of the season, especially with such strong sides out, and no surprise that both of Milan's games went to penalties.
No, they don't seem to be afraid to play each other, and also not to do business with each other. Very often there's big names leaving one Inter to go to Milan or to Juventus or Roma. Not afraid of if we don't feel he's good enough for us, we don't mind you having him. So yeah, very much very close in that way.
The format of this competition, by the way, this plus Locomotive against Chelsea, the winners of both will play in a final of sorts for the trophy on Sunday. They'll also get a bit of an extra lie-in as well, because the losers of both matches, and if they are draws, they'll be settled by a penalty shootout competition. The losers will be on in the early afternoon back in this stadium on Sunday to contest third place. Milan were in that shake-up last year against Locomotive. They have some defending to do here. A foul on Adriano.
Yeah, it's Gattuso. I think it was accidental, really. Couldn't really pull himself out of the challenge. Adriano takes the ball on his chest and just runs into Gattuso.
Gattuso reportedly a target of Jurgen Klinsmann by Munich over the summer months, but pledged his future to the Rossoneri. Now Biarti with the first bit of defensive organisation to do. Not a save forced from the end product, but it's a brand new start for Biarti. Not so for Manuel Jimenez, the one club man during his career. 14 years as a player with Sevilla, 7 as a junior coach. Almost saw that Ramaric got a slight flick on the free kick.
Yeah, it's a good delivery in as well. Ramaric is not noted for his goal scoring, long time in French football. It's a big step up for him, as it is for Sebastian Schillaci as well. Good player, good defensive organiser, good talker.
Schillaci's role will be so important, with Navarro and Escudé both injured going into the new season. Navarro in particular just doesn't know when he'll be back. That's why Abdoulaye Konko is alongside Schillaci in defence today. Seedorf. Run by Ambrosini for Zambrotta. Experience of Zambrotta will be key for Milan, with Maldini hardly able to play every single game. Serie A and Coppa Italia and Europe. Milan fighting on 3 fronts for sure. Kaká, and clears by Konko. Straight back at Zambrotta. This is Kaká for Milan. Took a deflection. Rather comfortable in the end for Andres Palop. Have to feel sorry for Palop at the moment, don't you, being in the Spain squad at Euro 2008 and hardly getting a look in with the form of Iker Casillas. 2 men with those decisions to make as the season comes upon us.
I don't like the look of their worried brows already. It's only pre-season.
Takes a lot to get a smile out of Carletto, doesn't it? Carlo Ancelotti, coach of Milan.
There's Gattuso again, working away.
Seedorf.
Position to play.
Don't think there's quite such thing as a friendly or a pre-season for Gattuso. Any day is competitive day.
The pitch looks in good condition. I think the grass has been deliberately left slightly longer than most players would like it, to accommodate the 4 matches in 3 days. The players will just have to make sure they don't run with the ball too much. Control and pass and move without it is the order of the day.
Jesus Navas and a throw-in for Sevilla. Milan have it back with Poloski. Scored twice in that under-19 championship for Italy as they made it to the final and lost to Germany. So much responsibility heaped on his shoulders as well, with Pato and Ronaldinho making their way back from the Olympics for the start of the Serie A season. Marco Borriello, back from a loan spell at Genoa, has a knee injury. This is Jesus Navas. Waits for support to come from Conco. Abbiati heard left, a little gap at the near post. Happy to see it closed down because Ramaric didn't get hold of his left-footed shot.
No, it was a comfortable save for Abbiati. I mentioned that Romek is not a good goal scorer from midfield. The last couple of years I've watched him a lot playing in France, and I don't remember any goals from him. I know he must have scored one or two. Good provider though. If he's given time on the ball, he picks people out really nicely. He's very tidy in left-footed. He never really plays on that left side in midfield. That's where he does most of his good work.
It'll be interesting to see how he fits into the Sevilla form, because their side as a unit, the spine has remained the same since the first of their UEFA Cup wins, 2006 in Eindhoven against Middlesbrough. Miscontrols from Prieto.
Yeah, they've been a good team for a few years, haven't they? And Manuel Jimenez has got a tough job to follow in the previous coach's footsteps.
Previous coach, of course, left for Tottenham, a certain Juan de Ramos. Bequeathed to Jimenez, a pretty good side.
Well, they lost two good players in the summer, both to Barcelona, Dani Alves and Seydou Keita. In the centre of midfield, who's similar play to Romaric. I think he's got a lot more about him in terms of his ability to get around the pitch. There's that strike again from Romaric. Well, he's looking, if he's actually trying to bend that in your opposing corner, doesn't catch it cleanly, slightly off balance as well. Comfortable save for the goalkeeper.
Also lost Christian Poulsen, the Dane, who went to Juventus, and Marti to Mallorca as well. So some reconfiguring to do from Manuel Jimenez down at the Ramon Sanchez Pizjuan.
I think they were pretty sure they were going to lose Keita quite early on in the season, actually, because they were looking at the boy from Lyon as well, Kim Schallstrom, left-sided player.
Milan just opened up for the moment. Zambrotta with the half clearance. Pirlo contesting the loose ball. Just wonder how much Maldini's desire to play can make up for those creaking bones that were evident at times last year in the Champions League, in particular when Milan were run ragged by Arsenal in the last 16. This is Seedorf, evergreen at 32.
He's a baby in comparison, isn't he? Seedorf.
Certainly has scored twice in midweek against Juventus too, in fine form. Zambrotta. This is Ambrosini.
If you take Milan out of their comfort zone, as Arsenal did.
Seedorf looking to run off the back of Conco. No threat to Andres Palop in the end. You were saying about taking Milan out of their comfort zone. That's something that Arsenal certainly did in that Champions League game.
Yeah, he's that foul that Fabiano's looking for. Doesn't get it. Aldini arm on the shoulder, but he does get something onto the ball. Most important thing.
It's the kind of thing that Manuel Jimenez would expect to see Fabiano just that half second quicker when he gets up to full game time speed. And of course, for all four coaches, Rashid Rakhimov, Chelsea Scolari, Ancelotti and Jimenez, that's mainly what they're here for. Make sure that when their league seasons start, for all apart from Lokomotiv, that they're up to speed. And it's a good chance for the home team to experience some high-level competition for the second year running. Real Madrid and PSV Eindhoven were invited rather than Sevilla and Chelsea last year. PSV walked up with the cup and weren't invited back to defend it.
You can come, but don't spoil the party by winning.
Our game, our rules. This is Seedorf. Kaká. Gattuso. That's why you don't see too many goals from Gennaro Gattuso.
Yeah, it's good movement, good link-up play between Gattuso, Seedorf and Kaká, who was just the wrong person on the end of it.
For Italy, Gattuso scored on international debut against England many moons ago, almost a decade ago now. Hasn't scored in 70 matches since. His record in Europe for Milan reads similarly. More of an agitator and a creator than a finisher.
Yes, he's made many a tackle, broken up many an attack for the opposing side in those years though. Well, they play this way, AC Milan, with Ambrosini and Gattuso running around and spoiling the play, and then Pirlo sitting in front of the back four because of the aging legs at the back. And I feel like with Matteo Flamini's introduction from Arsenal, and with Ronaldinho obviously joining the ranks as well, they've got some younger players, and Pato as well, who should be coming into his prime in the next 2-3 seasons. Slowly and surely. And Zambrotta as well, Mr. Versatile in Italian football, can play anywhere along that back line.
Said he was homesick, hence the return from Barcelona. €9.5 million splashed out on Gianluca Zambrotta. Played all 4 of Italy's matches in Euro 2008. Of course, it's a very international scene these days, the club game. But still, I'm sure there are some on either side who will look for either some keeping of the status quo from that Euro 2008 quarter-final, and Spain beat Italy on penalties, of course, and some who would like a bit of revenge.
Yes, they would do. I don't imagine we'll see too many changes with the Italian squad over the next year or so. It's a man who knows Italian football as you would expect inside out. Signor Lippi.
Adriano. Deep cross, too deep in the end for Jesus Navas. Attacking from the right. Do get bodies forward with some real pace, Sevilla, even though over the last couple of seasons you wouldn't describe them as a counter-attacking side. They do shuffle forward with real intent and vigour.
Well, I think sometimes teams set themselves up not to play counter-attacking football, as you said. It just happens that way. Maybe because their players are not as gifted in keeping the ball, but I wouldn't say that about Sevilla in the last couple of seasons. Very quickly, if you find success that way and you sort of lull yourself into playing that kind of style of football, certainly they do have pace on the flanks and have had in the last couple of years.
Paloszki was the man who ran offside to give Sevilla this latest chunk of possession. Replicated at the other end by Fabiano, who recently has signed an extended contract with Sevilla until 2011, a contract with a buyout clause of some $40 million. Don't think he'll be going anywhere in a hurry. Zambrotta inched out of play. Large responsibility on Paloszki up front for Milan in times to come, but that's where the experience in the remainder of the team will come in quite useful. Paloszki, a goal scorer on his Serie A debut just 18 seconds after coming on. If he can make that kind of impact in Serie A this coming season, then you have to fancy Milan to finish higher than 5th spot that they could manage last year, inched out of the Champions League places by Fiorentina. Ambrosini didn't know whether to come or go with the challenge there. This is Jesus Navas for Sevilla. Just in the end, Milan got enough bodies in the way.
Well, it's good and selfish play from Fabiano, but really he should have taken that shot, dropped the shoulder nicely. Kaladze was sold by the dummy. He plays it to Navas in the end. Navas on the right side, but by that time Milan have got 2 players back and they block it before it even reaches Abbiati. Somebody's taken one for the team. Gattuso
will be a familiar sight. Gattuso springing off the deck after being involved in a midfield collision or other. This is the opportunity again.
Well, to be fair to him, actually, he was blocked by Colazze. Then he gets up and blocks the eventual shot. So Ambrosini is unable to close him down. There he goes, Colazze, helping his goalkeeper out. Certainly was goal-bound.
Ancelotti, the master tactician at Milan.
So I was just going to say, Mark, you mentioned about them finishing higher than 5th this season. I don't really see it for Milan. I think their team is too old, and Carlo Ancelotti, I'm sure he's been, he would never admit publicly anyways, leaned on, I'm sure, by Berlusconi and his advisors to keep faith with this aging midfield and aging defence. They were exposed last season, throughout the season. As I mentioned, had an awful start, just like Sevilla, really, in many ways. Never really got themselves into 3rd place, into 3rd or 4th place to really cement that Champions League spot. Ended up missing out. So I think without some top quality young blood, they've got a few players in the squad, but I don't really think some of them are ready. Palosci being one of them, and Pato.
Shot from distance again comes from Romaric.
To really make the difference, just to finish off this coming season.
They do have a few youngsters. They have got rid of a few of the older statesmen, if you like, of the Milan side. Serginho, Cafu made their way to pastures new. Many observers around northern Italy think it might well be a season or so too late. Perhaps Maldini's reversal of his decision to retire. He's had 3 or 4 decisions to retire now, hasn't he?
Unfortunately for some of the Milan faithful, who I know many of them who are based here, it's you know, they're sort of hoping that he will call time on himself, but it doesn't look as if anybody else has the power to do so. The Milan sort of family has a huge influence over AC Milan in general, with his father being at the club as a player and a manager.
Cesare Maldini lifted Milan's first European Cup back in 1963. Abbiati lifts that free kick rather comfortably. Of course, Paolo Maldini played alongside Ancelotti in those great Milan sides of the late 80s, early 90s, the Van Bastens, Hullits, Rijkaards, taking apart Steaua Bucharest, then Sven-Göran Eriksson's Benfica. It's a very different crop these days, but whilst Maldini stayed at the heart of defence, Ancelotti has graduated via Juve to the bench at San Siro.
Neither team has really been able to get hold of the game so far. Well, we've seen plenty of the ball in the midfield area. Actually, so far it's been Seville who've looked more dangerous, with a couple of overhits, free kicks and crosses, particularly from Adriano. So now the goalkeeper's really been troubled.
Best described so far as rusty pre-season fare. Seen enough from both so far, though, to indicate that it could change at any given moment. Free kick will be taken by Pirlo. Gattuso. Kaká wasn't expected originally to feature in this first game after a knee operation. Reports in Italy say that he's close to agreeing to continue his career in Milan. Cross was overhit, and again no danger to Palop and co at the back. This is the effort from Romaric, his second from long range. Just a little deflection there from Renato might have made life quite awkward for Abbiati.
Yeah, once again the way he's shaping to hit the ball, it's almost for like a curved shot as opposed to really getting so much power behind it. Doesn't really attack it with enough conviction.
We are at 1/4 distance in game 1 of the 2008 Russian Railways Cup. Still goalless between Milan and Sevilla, with, I'm sure, interested observers both Lokomotiv Moscow and Chelsea awaiting their bow in the competition, which will come round about half an hour after the conclusion of this game. Jesus Navas has 2 to beat. One of them's Gattuso, snapping at his heels, and legally so, according to the official from Malakovka.
He did well, Gattuso. Looked slightly untidy in the challenge, but he did get the ball. Here, just Navas, he caught a flying arm from the Italian.
Certainly looked inadvertent, and it's been a big week for the man making the decisions in the middle.
Yeah, certainly took the ball. He doesn't take it cleanly, and then it comes back up. Well, there's the knee on the back of the head. That's where the damage was done. You just see how important the likes of Gattuso and Ambrosini are to this Milan team. Because Colazze is back paddling. He doesn't really want to be taken on one-on-one by the speedy winger.
The man in the middle has made the right decisions so far in the game. He's actually just come back from an assignment in Denmark. He officiated in the Champions League qualifier between Aalborg and Modrice. Aalborg 5 goals to the good in that. Will play the winners of the Glasgow Rangers against FPK Kaunas tie. Second leg to come in Lithuania. Kakar was the intended target there.
Yeah, it was really poor cross from Massimo Ordo. Not under two, he's not under any real pressure. He scuffs the cross, goes to nobody in. Sevilla shirt picks that one up.
Maldini. Neither side able to string a host of passes together at the moment. Possession stats certainly back up the way that the game has gone so far. Sevilla just about the better of the two sides. Sevilla dominated the first half of their last meeting with Milan and led through a goal from Renato. For Milan really did turn on the style in the second half. Sevilla looking to do that here, and Abbiati is the first goalkeeper to be called upon in truth in the game so far.
Well, that's a good save, and finally we got somebody on the end of something who knows really how to put the ball in the back of the net. Good ball through. There's Fabiano, picks it up, far too much space and time to line up the shot. It's heading towards the side net, and good save from the keeper.
Came at a good height, but it's a corner to Sevilla taken by Navas. It's away by Zambrotta. Gattuso with the header. Kakar only had one in red and black ahead of him. Rather cynical attempt to stop him from Prieto. Zambrotta. Ambrosini really unable to make his mark on the Italian campaign at Euro 2008. Really did miss the Milan duo of Gattuso and Pirlo when they were suspended for that quarter-final against Spain. That's a neat ball, and the Georgian Colazze deals with it well. Bundles away from Renato. Second corner in quick succession for Sevilla.
They're just growing in confidence, the Spaniards. Or Spanish team, I should say. It's a whole mixture, isn't it?
You see Pirlo hugging the near post. There are 5 in white in the Milan penalty area. One of them is Renato. Abbiati didn't know whether to come or go. Another looped over the head of Schilacci. And got into a bit of a tangle with Adriano. A messy end to a foray forward that promised much for the Andalusian outfit. This is a save from Abbiati again.
What it was a good save. Comfortable height, really. Always swerving away. I think it might have just crept inside that far post.
Abbiati spent last season in La Liga with Atletico Madrid, starting all over again yet again at Milan some 9.5 years after making his debut for the Rossoneri as a substitute replacement for the great Sebastiano Rossi. Looking to try and finally cement his place now with several question marks around the rather eccentric goalkeeping of Dida. Rumoured in the Italian press for large swathes of the last Serie A season that a Muscovite would actually be the top of Ancelotti's shopping list between the posts, and that would be Igor Akinfeev, man who kept goal for Russia in Euro 2008, plays across the city at CSKA Moscow. Hasn't come to fruition, and Abbiati is back at San Siro. This is Gattuso.
Not quite as easy to prize players away from the Russian league as it would have been some 15-20 years ago. Well funded these days.
Well reflected in some of the asking prices for Russian stars after Euro 2008. Sevilla stars pressing forward now and earning yet another corner. Fabiano, who again with a bit more game time might have been a bit more eager to attack the dead ball line there.
Yeah, you can see that one or two players have noticed that Kaká so far and Fabiano on that occasion just not quite able to make their mind up before they actually receive the ball, and by the time they do, they've almost run out of options, almost run out of space there.
Jesus Navas with the third Sevilla corner. Hasn't quite found his range just yet. It'll be interesting to see later on this evening how Lokomotiv Moscow shape up with Chelsea on paper. Chelsea have the lion's share of the stars. Lokomotiv exactly at the midpoint of the Russian Premier League season. They've had 5 or 6 games at full speed since the resumption of the Premier League. They do have players looking to impress English employers as well, the likes of Darbinsky and Diniar Bilyeletdinov, who this morning has been linked with Portsmouth.
Well, you'd imagine that if Lokomotiv over these next couple of days start with a good tempo in both games, that either team, AC Milan or Sevilla or Chelsea, will find it hard to stay with them. He said match fitness is such a big thing, but the longer the game wears on, and then the more likely that those teams slightly fresher will come into it.
Fairly young side, Lokomotiv as well. This is Kaká, very young himself. He's looking for the free kick. Nothing but a blank look from Stanislav Sukhina.
And it's a nice feeling when you're playing against teams who you know are fitter than you. In first half you find yourself struggling physically, and the longer the game goes on in the second half, you can feel that power returning to your legs and the stamina improving, and game by game that should increase.
I know that among the coaches here saying they won't make wholesale changes, the lead man to come out with that statement has been Coach Scolari of Chelsea. Set himself a benchmark of 3 or 4 after making 8 and 9 at different times in the Asian leg of pre-season for the West Londoners. Foul there was from Ambrosini on Konko.
Lucky to get that one. First touch wasn't great, and second one took it far too close to Ambrosini.
Abbiati has claimed 2 of these comfortably. Ramaric with a rather casual delivery. This is Seedorf on the break for Milan. Managed to confuse himself with his footwork.
And once again Kaká, quite as sharp as he would like to be. The ball was slightly behind him after Seedorf had done well to hold off 2 players.
Kaká has to be remembered just coming back from a knee operation. Wasn't able to retain possession, and again there's a distance flashing effort well wide of the goal of Abbiati. I think he'll be happy so far, Manuel Jimenez, with his side's progress. They never really garner the same impression from the demeanour of Ancelotti. Ancelotti confirmed yesterday that any hope of signing Andriy Shevchenko on a loan deal or otherwise from Chelsea had petered out for another pre-season. Ancelotti's words, he will be with Chelsea at the start of the season.
Just at the start, he didn't say anything about midway, did he?
Reading between the lines there.
Yeah. Well, they don't seem to be able to make their mind up, do they, AC Milan, whether it's Shevchenko they want or Drogba.
Adebayor mentioned the odd time as well. Jesus Navas had that shot just a few moments ago. Konko. Navas with the quick feed. And it's end them is a bump on the ankle.
Well, he was never going to get that ball once he'd allowed it through his legs.
Rather flustered in the early stages, and that's why. Maybe the faintest of clips from Zambrotta. Navas. Taken in his stride very well indeed by Renato. Switched from left to right temporarily. Konko with the Sevilla throw. Good first touch by Fabiano, but was soon crowded out. Couldn't make his mind up what to do.
Yeah, Gattuso had gambled. He was going to come back towards his right side. Really clever play. Took it on his thigh towards the goal. But then Gattuso was given enough time to come back. Is that, well, slightly fortuitous from Seedorf to Steve Schillaci.
It'd be worth a few rubles if you could perfect that trick on more than one occasion. Schillaci was as confused as Seedorf looked at the end of it all. Aloshki is being brought down by Romarik. Ushered on by Pirlo. Difficult to know what you can garner about the prospects of both teams for the forthcoming season so early in the campaign, whilst Chelsea start their English Premier League campaign in a fortnight. These two have to wait a little longer.
Yeah, you can never really read too much into pre-season. 5 or 6 wins very often can lead to 2 or 3 defeats early on in the season and vice versa. So all about improving your fitness. And both teams at the moment are playing like there's 2 teams who really don't know if they're going to be not in the starting lineup, but accommodating a few new faces. Short of fitness. There's a little touch from Otto and Fabiano on this near side, the far side.
Seedorf rather expected the ball to come to him. Picked up by Adriano.
The older I got, Martin, the less concerned I was about pre-season results. I think most cynical older footballers do feel that way as well. You realise that. Just use it as a means to improving your fitness, and then big kick-off, first league match is when it all really matters.
Milan actually have a derby against Jose Mourinho's Inter to come in round 5 of the new campaign, so they'll hope to be up to speed early. Schillaci with the header, and Milan will have their first chance to test Sevilla's defence from the corner. Schillaci seems to have fitted in well so far. Hasn't been a great deal to do in that third of the field so far, though. 8.5 to go until half-time.
Yeah, first real piece of work he's had to do. First time they've really had to defend anything. He's a no-nonsense defender as well, Sebastian Schillaci.
Seedorf with the corner. Maldini was up there. This is Pirlo. Horrible connection on his attempt to whip the ball in. Rather disappointing delivery in keeping with the game so far from Andrea Pirlo. Interest from Chelsea and Barcelona. Just about everybody seems to be linked to those 2 clubs at the moment, with new coaches installed and a few banknotes hidden away as well for new signings.
You just wonder how much his actual agent talk. I thought that Pirlo would be the type of player Barcelona would be looking for. Already got 3 or 4 in that sort of mould. Certainly 2 very good ones in the team, Iniesta and Xavi. Very similar to Pirlo, so
looking to rebuild under Pep Guardiola.
I'm sure his friends Zambrotta will tell him it's not very nice in Barcelona. Why would you want to go there? Much better in Milan.
A man who knows the city well, of course, formerly.
How could you be homesick living in Barcelona?
Well, it's incredible, isn't it? how the other half live. Sevilla with a chance here to test Abbiati. In for Maresca with the effort. Is the man really the engine room behind that first UEFA Cup success in 2006? Very, very precise lob, but Abbiati not quite far enough off his line.
No, he was a long way out as well. Maresca does well to slip the ball through Ambassini's legs. Good vision as well, has an early look up. It's a little bit too far out to receive a good goalkeeper.
Abbiati certainly a very experienced campaigner. Been the busier of the two goalkeepers so far. Might be about to get busier. Jesus Navas for the Andalusians. There's the right ball, but Pirlo, who read it well, tracking back.
Yeah, the first time that Milan were really exposed on the flanks, it was 2 against 2. Fabiano made that run towards the near post he would expect. Milan, as I said, they do cover well. There's 2 defensive midfield players, or the 3 of them in this case. Pirlo was the man who cleaned up for his team. And only real genuine pace, as Arsenal showed last season in the Champions League, exposes a team like Milan. When it comes to that cagey midfield battle, they can still play with the best in Europe.
Given away by Fernando Navarro. Sevilla seem to be winning all of the 50-50s at the moment. They've won that decision from referee Sukhina as well.
He did get the ball eventually, Gattuso. He'd already taken Fabiano down. This once again comes from Kaká giving the ball away cheaply. This will be a good exercise for Kaká, though. We know he's a long way from being fit, but 45 minutes or maybe an hour's work today will be as good as almost a week's training.
Great boost for the Russian public to see the Brazilian superstar as well. Decent crowd in, well over 20,000 expected. The stadium, Čerkezovo, holds 28,800.
Oh, it'll be full later on. 2 Russian teams playing.
Free kick to Sevilla. Chance to test Abbiati again. Rather pleased to watch it sail over his crossbar.
Never got to the pitch of the ball, really. Fabiano was leaning back, seemed to be a long way. Sorry, Maresca. A long way back, wasn't he?
Do you get the feeling that the confidence of this Sevilla side rapidly moving upwards? Good job that their goalkeeper was pretty confident about getting to that back pass, because there's a couple of yards short. Andres Palop swept up well. Pawlowski is forward now, but this is Kaká. Foot in was from Schillaci.
He gave away the sloppy back pass, woefully underhit.
Owed his team the repaying of the favour. Poor delivery from the corner, didn't reach Seedorf. Kaká with the energetic movement. It's all got rather congested down on that left-hand side for the Serie A outfit.
You see he's blowing hard. Kaká, every little run he makes, just has to stroll around for the next minute or two to regain his breath.
Had the summer of 2007 off, effectively, with Brazil in Copa America action. They won the final, of course, by hammering Argentina.
Yeah, he won't want to do that too often, will he? This in the Copa America.
Claiming tiredness, and then he said it did benefit his game last season. Of course, he would say that after the event, but interesting to see how he goes this year. The man voted as the World and European Footballer of the Year at the last elections.
Yeah, it didn't benefit Ronaldinho too much, did it? He was another one who missed that tournament. Had a great season by his standards last time round.
Ronaldinho missing from this Milan side as he prepares to play in his second Olympic Games. Appeared in Sydney in 2000. Brazil's competition starting in 6 days' time.
It's such a big thing for the Brazilian nation because they've never won the Olympics. It's the only major trophy that they've not won. So all their players are desperate to play in it, at least appear in one or two and try and lift that trophy. So get that gold medal. It's eluded them so far. Amazing, isn't it? With all the brilliant young players they produce, they've not managed to win it.
Especially the likes of Pato, who's there as well for the duration. This is Seedorf. Almost something pretty special from the old master. Not too old even at that, but it was a good strike. Halop will say he had it covered had it been bending inside his left-hand post. The closest Milan have come so far.
And you'd have to agree with him. Space opens up for Seedorf. He's got great technique on both sides, really. Stronger on that right side. Look how he keeps it. He's a lot closer to the ball than free kick we saw a few seconds ago. Dipping ball just off target.
Strike from Seedorf, the man in goal-scoring form towards the end of last season, along with Pippo Inzaghi, who amazingly scored 11 goals in his last 9 Serie A matches. Inzaghi. Seedorf was almost as prolific in relative terms for a midfielder. Scored a couple of blinders in the Champions League against Shakhtar Donetsk. I remember both on the volley last year. Terrific goals. Sevilla at that point were on a 6-match winning sequence at Europe's top table. We've seen glimpses of just how they achieved it over the first 45 minutes here. The Russian Railways Cup, Game 1 for 2008, the second edition of this competition. Milan drew their first game 0-0 with PSV last season, and after 45 minutes in Lokomotiv Central Stadium, they're halfway towards doing the same against Sevilla. A half of relatively few chances. That man Kaká hasn't been involved a great deal, but Sevilla have tested Abbiati more than Andres Palop has been worked in the Sevilla goal. Seedorf coming the closest for Carlo Ancelotti's side at the end of the opening 45. Abbiati worked the most, half-time in the Russian Railways Cup Game 1. Milan 0, Sevilla 0.